Hello and welcome to British Hill Climbing. We're here at Gurston Down near Salisbury for rounds 9 and 10 of the MCL Motorhomes British Hill Climb Championship. 2 weeks ago we were up north at Barbon Manor and then over to Harewood on the Sunday. Let's go over to commentator Jerry Sturman and see some of the action.
At just 890 yards, Barbon Manor in Cumbria is the shortest hill in the championship. Let's take a look at the course alongside Alan Warburton in his DTO Caterer. Immediately after the start, we're into the blind left at Crabtree before the course opens up and the speeds rise. Sprinting across the hillside, we're heading for the fast left-hander at Richmond. It's bumpy and difficult to hold a line on this key section of the course, particularly in the wet and slippery conditions here at Barbon today. Hard on the brakes for the phone hairpin now. It's faster than it looks, but it's very easy to get on the power too early and overcook it, as the finish line is just a short dash from the exit. Back on the hills after an 8-year break, Richard Hargreaves returned with his Mitsubishi Evo 6 RS. A class record at Oliver's Mount last weekend was a good start to the multiple championship winners' comeback, and he's going well here at Barbon. The much travelled Andy Russell and his Flying Ginetta rarely miss a trip up country to Barbon, and this is a successful one too. Storming into Richmond with the Imp motor on full song, he's on his way to a class win. Despite the slippery conditions at Barbon, Mark Dempster enjoyed his first win of the year in the Toyota-powered Raw Striker. Here's the familiar Dialinks Quattro of local garage owner Keith Edwards. A regular class winner this year, he's about to put another notch on the Audi's gear lever today, but not without a fight. An on-form Jeff Twemlow really applied pressure in his Impreza early on, but bad weather conditions would confine the meeting to a single set of competition runs, and we would never know whether the man from Cornwall could have kept up his challenge. For several years now, Gary Stephen has been one of the men to beat in the Hillclimb Supersports class. True to form, he scored another win at Barbon in the Clubman's Mallet, but the challenge from Tom Brown might have been greater had his own Mallet not broken a drive shaft early in the day. But with spots of rain beginning to fall, the weather looks ominous, and it will begin to play a major role in the day's activities. Pat Roach arrived at Barbon to try out his substantially modified OMS, what's effectively the works development car, for the first time. But conditions are now worsening, and Roach gets a wheel on the grass on the bumps on the approach to Richmond. He's offline now, and it gets worse. He almost loses the car altogether as it runs wide on the exit. But something's wrong. A suspension pushrod is broken, and Roach slowly drives the stricken car to the finish. John Bradburn damaged his Gould Cosworth single-seater in an accident at Chelsea Walsh 5 days ago, so he's wheeled out his Westfield SE8. A good call too, he actually managed to qualify the Rover V8 powered sports car for the Runoff. If anyone can prove that age is no barrier to hill climb success, it's Mike Fitzsimons. Sharing Tim Wilson's OMS today, Mike ran early and missed the worst of the weather. This played right into his hands, as at 70 years of age, he made history by being the oldest driver ever to qualify fastest for a British Hill Climb Runoff. He scored too, knocking John Bradburn's SE8 out of the points on the final run of the day. We've been following the progress of dynamic Welshman Ian Price throughout this series, so let's watch him in action at Barbon during the runoff. We're alongside him now as he blasts the force up into the fast left-hander at Richmond. He backs off the throttle on the bumpy surface, but he's on the power again as the bike engine car rockets up towards the hairpin. Another fine performance by the former rally driver will earn 5th place behind a quartet of V8s. Now let's go back and watch his incredible qualifying run in almost impossible conditions. It's raining hard, but Price still needs a good time to make sure of making the cut for the 12-car runoff. Launching the car into Crabtree, he coaxes it round the tricky left-hander. Now he's on the power and the force almost gets away from him on the wet road. Up into Richmond, the track conditions are even worse. The wet pattern Havens are coping well with the standing water, but Price is having to fight the car to stay on the track. Into the hairpin and the finish is in sight. That's a tremendous 6th place qualifier for Inan. Price's regular sparring partner Will Hall is out of luck today. He went well in this morning's practice session, but when the rain came in the afternoon, he spun out at the hairpin and failed to make the cut. OMS constructor Steve Owen is back in the carbon tub car that he debuted here last year. Just scraping into the cut at number 12, he goes on to score a fine 6th place in the runoff. A delighted Andy Platt took his first 2-litre class win of 2009 and made the cut too, getting his Vauxhall-powered Formula 3 Dallara onto the championship scoreboard for the first time this year with 8th place. But it wasn't a good day for the regular 2-litre pacemaker. Paul Hames struggled with his Dallara at Barbon, trailing Platt and Owen and unable to find the pace to make the runoff. Into the V8s, and not even Paul Ranton could match the pace of the flying Steve Owen. With the meeting delayed due to the weather and just one set of runs on offer, he too failed to score. Roger and Scott Moran were getting to grips with a new traction control system this weekend. Despite a few teething problems with the setup, Roger made the cut and brought the Gould V8 home in 7th place. Tom New, though, had no such advantage on the Gould Judd that he shares with Chris Merrick. He missed the cut by just 0.07 of a second, bumped out by Steve Owen's bike-powered OMS. Alistair Crawford's early model Gould GR37 won 3 consecutive British titles with Cosworth power in the hands of David Grace. Crawford runs a Judd V8 in the car these days and scored his first British Championship point of the year at Barbon. Chris Merrick and the 4-litre Gould Judd outpaced even defending champion Scott Moran in the wet qualifying session and beat him in the runoff too, going on to score his best result of the year so far with 3rd place. Despite the power disadvantage at Barbon of his bike-based PowerTech V8 engine, Trevor Willis was on top form and finished a fine 2nd overall, making up time with a committed attack on Richmond's fast swerve. Still dialing in the new traction control system, Scott Moran and the Nicholson McLaren-powered Gould couldn't quite find the pace to match the leaders. 4th place in the runoff will have to do for today. It was left to Martin Groves to set the pace on what had been a difficult day at Barbon. Over a second outside his own hill record, the championship leader produced another winning shot to take victory in the runoff with best time of the day. So with bad weather delays leaving time for just one scoring round at Barbon, Martin Groves stretched his lead over defending champion Scott Moran to 5 points, while Trevor Willis's fine performance levelled the OMS driver with Chris Merrick in 3rd place. Now the team's packed up and headed across the Pennines to Yorkshire and the following day's Harewood event, where we can now catch up with James Wills.
Thanks, Jerry. I'm here in the paddock with Tim Wilson and Mike Fitzsimons, who are driving a 1600 OMS here. Tim, I believe you're the chairman of the local club, the BARC Yorkshire Centre.
That's right, yes. Yes, we run the Harewood Hillclimb events, and it's always good to have the British Championship come to Harewood. They do come twice a year, so hopefully we've put on a good show for them today. Absolutely.
How's the event going generally for you?
I think the event's gone quite well. The conditions obviously are very tricky, not quite as bad as they were yesterday at Barbon, but still very tricky, and that has slowed proceedings a little bit, but made for some exciting results, really.
That's right. Unfortunately, we can't book the weather, but
no,
worth a go. Okay, well, Mike, you had a pretty successful day yesterday at Barbon, qualifying fastest for the runoff there. Pretty good for you.
Yeah, not bad for an Oldham.
Absolutely, and it was a bit of a record as the first person over 70 to qualify, I believe.
I believe so, yeah. I think it's quite an event for me anyway. I certainly enjoyed myself.
Not necessarily a record that you'd want, but one that's there.
Oh, I don't mind. I'll take anything that's going.
Good stuff, and today's gone well?
Yeah, it's fine, yeah. Mixed conditions, obviously, but I didn't quite order the wet weather in time for my run, so, it was good.
That's right, I didn't quite squeak into the second runoff there, but there's always next week.
Enough.
Good stuff. Well, thanks a lot for your time, guys, and enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you.
Back to you, Jerry.
Thanks, James. Well, if Barbon is the shortest hill in the British Championship, Harewood is the longest. We're riding with Tim Wilson in the OMS up the 1583 yards of the hill climb. Instead of just 3 corners, there are 10 of them. It's a real test of man and machine, particularly in these slippery conditions as we head into the tight S's section. Now comes the long right-hander at Chippies, which is blind and at the lowest part of the course tends to hold water when it rains. Out of chippies, we're faced with a blind brow 90 left at Country. Easy to go straight on here, where the track levels out for the short dash across the meadow to the right-handed Willow corner. This one opens out a little and we charge uphill again for the tricky left-hand swerve taken on the brakes before the tight right-hander at Orchard. Now comes a unique blast between the farm buildings before getting on the brakes and swooping up into Farmhouse Bend. This is a critical corner with a slightly off-camber exit where you need to be on the power as early as possible for the final charge up Quarry Straight towards Quarry Corner. This is Harewood's sting of the tail, for this climbing uphill right-hander tightens up viciously. We're over the finish line and, conveniently, right back in the paddock area.
Join us after the break for more British Hillclimb action.